All right. Well, welcome to the Measuring KRI using FAIR U Workbook masterclass. Thank you for making time to attend the conversation. This session is being recorded so that the other participant who might not be able to join at this time will be able to take advantage of information. And I sharing the deck, I will make the deck available after the event, and hopefully that will be useful for your background information. All right, so let me just start and just get my mouse working. Where's gone? Okay. All right, so let me start with acknowledgement of country. I am in Sydney, Australia. So I want to acknowledge the Gadigal of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodian of the city of Sydney, and pay my respect to the elders, both past and present. So this class is scheduled for about an hour. So we started a couple of minutes behind, but we should have plenty of time. And there will be two components. First part is going to cover the key concepts of the FAIR U Workbook was for and how you can take advantage. And then we share some time to go through some practice session. And if you have not yet downloaded or installed the workbook, which is just an Excel spreadsheet, that's fine. You can just follow me on the screen. I can show you what it might looks like. So let's just see if any other. So the other participants who are not able to make in person can take advantage of the information. It's run for schedule for an hour. We might not need a full hour, and I will encourage later on allow time to questions, and but we will finish about by 1 o'clock so that people can run the rest of the day. And I'm just going through the agenda there that. I will explain when you join the course is that the workbook is an Excel spreadsheet. And so when you learn Excel, there are two ways that often, two types of different training you can get. One is learning to apply Excel as a business tool and extending such as, what a model can do, how you use a general report and integrate, so reporting tools. The other is learn the coding for Excel. So this particular conversation is a format. It is give you the business context, what the workbook designed to enable you to do, and how you might want to take advantage of that. Now, each organization, each person's use case might be slightly different. The workbook, excuse me, is unlocked, so you will be able to extract all the formulas, and we use it in your environment. You don't have to use the workbook as it stands. It's still a good. So this is really what I want to explain how to use it and why you will want to consider using it. And so there are a number of topics on the screen. Don't worry, it's not overwhelming. So we'll go through that in a fairly leisurely pace. And please feel free to ask questions as we go through so that we can better engage. So let's start with the first topic. Let me advance my slide. Okay. Okay. So just gone a little bit too far. Periods. What happened? I was just going to bio slide. It's not going back to periods. Okay. All right. So firstly, I think most of you are connected with me somehow or know my profile. But let me just quickly introduce myself and my contact details on the slide there, and I will share this slide deck to all the participants of this call. So do reach out to me. You're not already done so through LinkedIn. So this is a education session from the Regional Security Institute, and I founded Regional Security Institute as a business conversation. Regional security is a balanced between the burden from enforcing controls and the business benefit, which is reduction in potential financial loss from cyber incidents. I wear a few hats. For those of you in Australia, Australian AISA, Australian Information Security Association, is a well-respected cyber community, and I'm very honored to be named a fellow a couple of years ago. And also on the French side, also have a global leadership role, serving on the standard committee, which is second last bullet point, and also been honored to be named as ambassador for the APAC region last year. And I also have a couple other credentials, such as Cybersecurity Professional of the Year last year, and also serving as an ambassador for CIISEC. All right, so next slide. All right, so start with my first topic is measure what needs to be managed, and that's probably no surprise to audience on this call, because that's probably the reason why you want to learn more about FAIR. So FAIR is not a risk assessment standard or not a risk security control standard like ISO 2001. And risk assessment is probably like 2001 or NIST 837. That's sort of RMF. Okay. See, I was also a participant. They just disappear. Okay. So, and this picture is from the French Institute. So it is explaining that business need to better manage communication between the business and cyber leaders to speak the same language. So take it with a grain of salt, what is said. And this slide is just showing the different format of the FAIR analysis. There's exactly the same information, and format on the bottom right-hand corner is probably the most commonly consumed format, which is return on investment or return on security investment, OSI. And the picture here is if the inherent risk is $80 million by investing $2 million, and you can bring down that to a residual risk of $9 million, then you have a net reduction of $71 million. And so FAIR role is to measure whether it is a reduction, 71 or 60 or whatever, right? And that's what the other expression on the slide gives you, that view, the loss execution curve, or candle charts and things like that. So but they say also information. You might not need to calculate ROI, but having a structured way to measure risk reduction enable you to have those conversations. And we see how some of these charts can be generated from the FAIR U Workbook tool. So this is the next part is using the FAIR U tool. Now, I include a link at the bottom and to download the tool, and you have not done so. I also have included a message for those of you I reach out directly. I linked to download that workbook directly from the French Institute. When you go to this particular page, you have to register and you get email to let you know the download links. I'll shortcut that process a little bit. It's nothing to install. Is a Excel spreadsheet. So it's just about a case of using rather than installing. So long as Excel install, you can just use the tool right of the bat. Now, in the FAQ, it has stated that using macro, Excel macro, which is often prohibited by enterprise security policy under, say, Essential 8, is not needed. And it's true, it's not needed. Macro is in this workbook is more of a convenience. You can see in a minute what I meant by convenience. The only catch is, and I checked it with the Institute, they are aware of what I'm saying, is that a little bit catch when you first download the workbook, you only see the Start Here tab, which is the pink, the first tab on color in pink on the left-hand side. The other tab are not visible until you accept the agreement. And to accept the agreement, the acceptance is run through a macro. So you do have to enable macro. You can then disable macro afterwards, and you will be able to see all the tabs. So I want to show you, when you accept the agreement, you will see all the other tabs at the bottom of the screen. And so don't be surprised when you first load up the workbook. Nothing's missing. There's nothing besides the Start Here tab is by design. So don't be surprised. And it's a somewhat catch-22. You have to enable macro to accept the agreements before you see other tabs. So let me show you what the other tab looks like. There are quite a number of tabs, but what they really are building blocks of building out the risk scenario. So you see in the third tab there, so you can go and through the instruction, second tab to read through the instruction. But the objective of the worksheet is to build scenarios so you can do the simulation, the calculation. The calculation part, of course, is done by a Excel function, a Monte Carlo. So no surprise there. What the workbook is to build all the inputs into the into the spreadsheet, so you can actually model the actual risk scenario. So one of the topic come later is there's a new taxonomy from the FAIR Institute explaining how to build a risk scenario, and often that is harder than what might first appear. And I think that's why a lot of times business find that conversation much more useful than the actual calculation. The number in itself. So we just get started. So I would keep an eye on the question on the chat. But it's a trending. As often is the analysis that the business want to look at is you can see it, right? Direction. Such a is a common interpretation of material journey. We're trying the right direction. So let me show you what it looks like. So this screen you're seeing that is on tab number your camera, you'll be able to see me, right? You can either type it in there directly. That's okay. So this agenda, as I explained earlier on, is that but the actual number calculation scheduled for about an hour. We've already, for example, full hour is about the conversation engagement. So feel free to ask questions and frequency. So you can put in numbers in those. So I'll show you what it looks like. It's in my chat, and I got a message saying to get started. One of the tab at the going towards the right-hand side is the test data generator, and as a learning tool, it's always easy to get some data to start playing with the spreadsheet rather than trying to put everything yourself. They take a lot more effort to kind of figure out what to put in this field, what units you should put it in. So this is what they built into the workbook, and you can reload. There's three scenarios. Apologies, I just trying to three stat data scenarios. Get one of the participants to join. So by pressing on the kind of agentic, the kind of a red color on the top right-hand corner. All right, it will show you. So this is the agenda. So got a few topics, but don't worry. When you select one of the three, it should be completely reload the whole spreadsheet, and you can see the difference, right? And so the way it works is understanding. If you were to learning and you want to play how to use the tool, the different. So I was not explaining and input to the model. You can go and load one of the models. Of course, it's the workbook, and then start using the other tabs, such as like when you do Excel training. In this case, you can see an analogy. You can either go and learn how to use Excel event frequency context, so you can manipulate those particular tabs correctly in Excel. So this is the format. And when you're done with that, you can come back to this tab how to use the sample this workbook now that's good for learning to deliver, but at some point you want to use your own data behind, and so you can do two things. And you can lower the sample data and start later in the part 3 of understanding overriding all the numbers of the installation of the organization. Bear in mind, this is a spreadsheet, so it's local, so it's nothing sent outside. The workbook's unlocked, so you'll be able to device. So it's no cloud storage, no nothing, all the funnels behind the workbook, and your organization and then prevent you from reuse it in your own actual tools. You don't have to use a into a spreadsheet, and there could be provided by third security concerns. From an enterprise perspective, the last one I want to make on this slide is workbook as much as going back to the macro trusted source advantage. So make it very clear to macro is not needed as it stands. It's a training to use a spreadsheet. I'm going to go through and the only catch today would confirm that conscious decision by French on open source license, so you are agreement. So they decided they want to do exactly describe. You actually access agreement, and the only way you can do that, so you have not missed anything yet. To use a macro. Yeah. So explaining this this session being recorded. Now, once you've done that, you can then disable the macro to use it. Once you do that, you will no longer use any of the buttons. Now this next screen should look very similar to the previous one, but you look more closely, it's a little bit different. This tab you're seeing is a very last tab on the bottom. Is a data migration. And what it does is, this is the tab you can use, put in your own data for your process you want to model. This tab will not be overwritten when you will load the 3 sample data in the tab, the red tab right next to it, the test data generator. Those two tabs were side by side. They was actually put in based on my feedback. And originally, the first version came out back in April. They only had the test data generator, and I said, that's really difficult to use, because once you overwritten it, you lost your data. So they created this additional tab, so you can put it in, and you had a button to update with migration data, right? So you can switch between the sample data and migration data, and can see the impact, what you do, and maybe your data you use in your own migration data is not delivering the result you want. You can compare with the sample one without losing your migration data, right? So this is very convenient. Like I said before, be mindful that if you disable macro, you would not be able to use the button, right? You would be able to enter the data directly in all the cells directly, but not using the convenience of pressing a button and load the data for you. So it's a trade-off you got to be mindful of. And of course, if you were to put into your own spreadsheet, then it's no issue, right? Because you can then enable macro as the way your organization allows you to do. This is the output. This is what you get by running the workbook. And by manipulating data, the other tab, you can see how there's a few more tabs now, because this particular output is exposed through this tab in the middle called risk report. This is output, in other words, and because you can extract the graphics, or you can actually extract the calculation. You can get the actual raw number from the spreadsheet. And you can see the bottom there, you have POA, probability action, and so on, so probability loss, sort of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any question, please let me know. Just pause for a couple of seconds in case anyone have any question you want to raise. All right, so assuming that pretty straightforward, as I say, this is really I explained in terms of Excel. This is you are not doing the Excel programming side, which I'm not going to do so. Well, that is about the end of knowing how to use Excel. The next part is what's the business context. So going to now, I think this is a more interesting part, because this is the whole point of workbook is very easy to use. Okay, I got a question here. Let me just look at the question. How do you load the risk report for one of the test scenarios? Okay, yeah, thanks for the question. So there are two steps. you load the test scenarios either using the test data generator tab, the bottom right-hand corner on the screen, or the next one, the load the migration data. And those two tabs don't override each other, so you can switch between the two. Once you've done that, then you, in fact, on that previous screen, you might not have noticed. So if I can go back to the previous screen and see, I can go previous. You see that is a recalculate workbook button in blue. So that button is on either page, either tab. So either test data generator or data migration, you will be able to press the button. We will not change the spreadsheet you want it to, but when you press the button and you do change the parameters, you will see the changes in the risk report. This is where you get output. So hopefully that answers your question to you. All right. All right, thanks to you. All right, so do you ask me a question? That's a good question, because I think that is the best time for you to ask a question, and you're not hanging in the future. Is, how do you go and do this? That's the whole point of this dynamic conversation. Okay, the next one, this is all business conversation now. So we're done with the actual tool, and that's it. All that you want to know is what the tool looks like, and that's it for you. But I think you find the next conversation of the rest of the hour to much more interesting. So the topic of this master class is how to measure KRI, key risk indicator, using workbook. No surprise how to use a workbook, because you can model risk using the risk scenario tab. Press the button, then you can calculate that. As you change your model, your risk assessment more precisely, then you put in the numbers into the spreadsheet, and then you press the recovery button model, and then you got to update the output. Now, I'm not going to insult anyone intelligent explaining what KRI is. But this is just a baseline. Is a metric, and of course, given the ISO definition, which is the same to the FAIR definition in the third line. So the ISO definition is a business statement. The third line is how FAIR as a standard defined risk, which is a calculable numbers or loss frequency and loss magnitude, right? ISO 23 just tells you what it is, but tells you how to calculate it. It's a more aspirational. And of course, the purpose of this, and what a fancy to believe is having this calculation and tools like Workbook allows you to identify emerging threat, emphasis on emerging, so you can look at a trend and make decisions, or even decide to do nothing. Doing nothing is a valid decision. Maybe just not changing, just monitoring is the right thing to do at that time. And the key here is measuring KRI. Once again, I'm not going to insult anyone intelligence, explain to you, how you measure KRI. This is no-brainer. What I want the conversation explain to you is how do you use a tool to express these requirements. My screen show I lost my presentation. Do you guys can see my presentation?
Yeah, I can still see it. Just can't see you, that's all.
Oh, okay. Wait, what happened? Yeah, you can't see me. Let me just see what happened. Yeah, because I can't see myself. Oh, well, I can see myself now.
Yeah, you're back.
All right, very good. Thanks, Oz. Let me go back to my screen. Yeah. All right. Thanks for confirmation. It's good to have that feedback. Okay, so once again, you guys were familiar with that. This is the FAIR taxonomy. We all know FAIR is not a technology; it's a taxonomy, it's a language. There are two parts: the taxonomy and then the risk analysis. So in version 1 of the taxonomy, when first published Open Group back in 2009, your version 1, that was what it looks like. The risk analysis was only created in 2012, and is trying to explain how to you actually use the FAIR taxonomy to perform risk analysis. And not a lot of people is aware the FAIR standard is published at Open Group rather than the FAIR Institute, and I'm leading both. So leading a project at open group as well for FAIR, applying FAIR to prioritise patching and in a zero trust context. So happy to have a chat when you guys. So the link to download standard is there, and you can see the version number a little different because the taxonomy was first published in 2009, so it's a version ahead of the RA. But they since then both updated together. And one of the slides coming up is Doug Herbert's Applied Information Economics ARE. That was included in version 1 ORI back in 2012. So Doug Herbert's work is very important. It's part of the FAIR standard. Another had changed is that is a notion of the open FAIR and FAIR, right? Some of the guys might have heard of that. The saying is this is open FAIR, this is FAIR. So this is what you see on the screen is the open FAIR. It's a FAIR published, taxonomy published an open group. That's why it's open FAIR. That's the name, the title. So the FAIR Institute and Jack Jung changed the taxonomy slightly, and what he changed is what the layer 4 resistance strength is called substitutability. So you look at the FAIR taxonomy on the FAIR Institute, resistance strength actually now labeled more than label called substitutability, which probably a little bit easy to understand. So just to let you know, in case you come across people saying open FAIR vs FAIR, this is the one of the differences is the label resistance. There's no change in the calculation or the actual modeling. And this picture is extracted from the ORI. That picture is within the ORI. So FAIR is not a control frame. It's not a control framework. It's a taxonomy, right? So what the open group has done is in version 2, which is published in 2019, version 2 ORA. Version 1 ORA is published in 2012, as I mentioned, when Doug Herbert's work was inducted. They now kind of clarify and said there are 4 controls. These are not controls like ISO 20001 way of looking at controls. It is a way of thinking about, the grouping of controls, such as avoidance controls. That could be such as front-ending your web server with a ref. That's to minimize the contact frequency, right? So that's what they're talking about. It's not a specific technology controlled. It's more process control. So I'll just bring up this slide in case you hear this term, like the difference between substitutability and vulnerability. This is another area that will be helpful. So you're not surprised when we talk about what's responsive control. Now, those are actually mapped in the next one coming up, which is even more interesting in this CSF. Now, this is a picture. And this is in also ORA version 2. That's when they introduced that. Now, that's very useful because this CSF is kind of a very commonly adopted framework to instrument your maturity. So a lot of your budget for your maturity journey instrumented your CSF, and then you measure maturity, and then you get funding to elevate your maturity to a certain level. This same concept is very applicable in Australia context in the Essential 8 maturity journey instrument Essential 8. Of course, the language is very different, but you can see in here where those 4 controls are applied, right? So this is where it came from. That's in the previous picture. So this particular diagram, color diagram, is within the OR version 2.0. I did not create that color coding. So that color coding is quite helpful. If you are engaging, say, your enterprise risk team and they are familiar with CSF, but not necessarily interested in the control, this trying to join the conversation together. And if you are talking to enterprise risk management team, this is really useful. But NIST IL86 is a blueprint. IL is an internal research report. And you can call it standard, whatever, NIST had this terminology, but that's what the IL part stands for. So a little bit different from, say, SP, the special publication, NIST 853. But the use of this one, because this was published a while back, first published in November 2019, and the version sitting on this website today is dated December 2020. And it's a blueprint, I call it blueprint, it's describing a journey, no technology involved, to integrate cybersecurity enterprise risk management. And of course, I think you are in this space, you will feel the pain of, EIT also has hunting you for numbers, right? So this is the blueprint going through like a 4-step, and they're quite detailed. It's only 80 pages, not very long. And the really useful thing, it connect with risk appetite. And this is one of the missing conversation. If you want to able to consume good risk, 806 define what good risk is like, and it's a very major paradigm shift from risk avoidance at any cost, all possible, to make a point of consuming risk up to the risk appetite, but not exceeding it. So that now give a scope for, say, CISO to enable business to actually take risks, because business have to take risk. Otherwise, you're not going to achieve your mission or maximize, say, your mission, whether it's profit or other objectives. And one of the slides coming up is explaining about why there's important paradigm shift at this time with Agentic AI is with Agentic AI completely change, putting the technology and risk landscape upside down on its head. So we need to really can no longer take the comfort position of avoiding risk. And one of the, given in Australia, people in Australia might be familiar with the FAIR U security, not NO but KNOW, was published by Mike Burgess, who now was back in 2012 was a CSO, Chief Executive Officer of Telstra, the biggest telecommunication provider in Australia. Now he's a boss at ACO. So he published this as a CSO or CISO, is you have to know what the business needed and understand how you can help to protect the data rather than constraining how they can use data. So that's what, and so this really speaks to that. And the other aspect of 806 why included here in my conversation is 806 named FAIR as the enable integration. And no surprise, because the first slide in my pack is you have a measure what you want to manage. If you have no measurement, well, you can, a lot of management are done without the actual data set. You can only do the best you could, but you can do the measurement a lot. You have a lot of confidence in terms of trending, right? So 806 name FAIR as the enable for the integration, so you can generate a number and put in ELM to ensure the training, your budget, training in the right directions. And FAIR is only non-NIST standard 806, and in fact, FAIR is also named by NIST on the catalogs of standard they respect. There's about, I think, 50 something standard today, and FAIR is on there. So I mentioned before, this is part 86, consumer good risk. I won't read that, but I encourage you to read 86 and understand what consumer good risk is. And I believe that there's going to be a big focus as we go forward, particularly 2020 Agentic AI risk. You really need to understand what good risk looks like from the business perspective, enable them rather than blocking them, because otherwise it just steamroll you, right? And so there's a couple more. You get this pack. These are all extracted 86. So the good thing with having 86 means you don't have to justify what good risk is, and this is the key. So 86 start with risk appetite, and I've been working on this journey for a little while. Be able to connect your security operational threshold, such when you enforce NFA, even the business research, often they do. Risk appetite give you a much better business conversation than compliance. And I spoke with the lead author for both 86 and CSR 2.0. His name is Stephen Quinn. Happy you guys or anyone want to connect. We're very open person to connect with anybody had chat. So he wrote both. And in fact, he told me that the government something this CSS 2.0 came from 836, but it took him like 4 years. They were published in November 2019, and CSS 2.0 was only published, I think, 2022. So it took a few years, and he wrote both. He said CSS by a long mile is the most downloaded standard across NIST by a long mile. And he's instrumental in connecting those together. So the governance, because in 2.0, governance is, I call it one ring that rule all the other rings, because they've got 5 other control functions from 1.0, 1.1. They did not add more control functions, they added governance, join them together. Right? There's some minor tuning of the 5 control function. The governance is brand new. And a lot of those come from 836 and the concept. 836 are no control. So the control expressed through this CSF 2.0. So more for you to read. So this is my own research paper published in 2019. Now that is written back in 2019 about the enforcement, the Australian Special Standard called CPS 234. I won't talk about that because others outside Australia might not be interested in, but also tied to risk appetite. They would predate my awareness 836. Our project in same month in November 2019 when the first edition of 86 was published. So I'm pleasantly surprised that 86 was published. The next part is talking about defining risk scenario. I mentioned before, generally spreadsheet is easy. I'm sure anyone on this call will have no issue driving the spreadsheet, but what they use it for is where this helps. So the FAIR Institute recognized that this is how to connect all the conversation together. So there are 2 new standards called FAIR-CAM and FAIR-MAP to support. You can see all the mapping into FAIR. And so FAIR-CAM is look at an ecosystem of control. What Jackson called is the control physiology. And one way to paraphrasing is find the weakest link. So you look at a series of control, you can ask the question, which one should I target? Where put my uplift money and push uplift and things like that. And FAIR-MAM is a way to measure the materiality of the risk, the MAM. So it's useful. It's really initially developed for sizing cyber insurance coverage. So I'll let you to read more about that. Now, this is the next tool I want to introduce. This is even more newer. This only published in February 2025. Called cyber risk scenario taxonomy. It's somewhat paradoxical in that FAIR is already taxonomy, so we're taxonomy on taxonomy. That's not the way I would suggest paraphrasing it. So you can read that description. What it's trying to do is help practitioners like yourself to better approach how to describe scenario and really get the input from the business. And if the business is not engaged in conversation, what doesn't matter how good the simulation tool is, they're not interested in. They want to making sure what the business outcome they want, such as enabling risk consumption without risking the actual business, which is the help they want from the CISO. Think what it is. Now, there are a couple of documents that come with that. This one, the link in here at the bottom of the screen, is a 40-page document that goes through the different, very detailed on each of the elements with the taxonomy. The next screen is next slide is showing you what the building block looks like. But one last thing I would say on this slide is this taxonomy was developed in collaboration with Cody Scott at Forrester. So Forrester permitting this. So give you more confidence that this is how like those research firms are looking at applying communication to help to mature the risk scenario conversation. So this is what it looks like. We're not going into details. Now, there are 2 things I want to draw attention to. Number one is the columns. And for those who have been working on FAIR for a little bit, you immediately recognize these are what we call the FAIR factors: the threat, the asset, and method, and the effects, right? So this is But the FAIR taxonomy just say the 4 category without going into examples. So this kind of and the analyst guide in the previous slide, go into each and every single of these to tell you what the elements you consider and what they mean, right? Another point I want to draw attention to is the method. The method, they are joint MITRE attack, the framework. So some of the language in here from the MITRE, right? And that is a formal collaboration between MITRE and the FAIR Institute on this this integration. So that's where it came from. Now this comes to the end part pretty much, and this is the most important part. So I mentioned Dr. Abed's work was inducted in the risk analysis standard in 2012 version 1. And for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with Doug's work, he pioneered this methodology called applied information economics. Wasn't specific to cyber. He's a statistician, so he said, how can you measure intangible risk? That's where it came from. Is how do you measure intangible risk? So the 2 key things he said. Often he's quoted saying 2 things: we have more data than we thought we have, and we need less data than we thought we need. Now the paraphrasing of that is he used the concept of starting with the ridiculous and does the equivalent bet. He's kind of using a psychological test to say, if you have to show confidence in your data, how about put someone on the table and say, you call that risk number $5 million, $10 million, how much you prepare to bet psychologically, right? So that's what the equivalent bet is. It's really key. And he go into much more detail in his book. He got several books. Next slide. The right-hand side is the AIE methodology. One of the key things that he really pioneered is the concept of calibration. The calibration, in fact, is done on the equivalent bet. Is you actually challenge, not the right word, but take people through the thinking is, are you really confident of the risk number you're calling out for the scenarios? Are you really confident we have a $5 million loss, right? And if so, what data set do you use? Let's look at the data and just see whether you will still agree with that. So these are the books. So this is in the order sequence. The failure risk management that we started, I think they were published in 2007. And how to measure anything, right? Notice is not how to manage anything. Cybersecurity, which is the green one, that was published, I think, 2009. The Green Book is 2nd edition. The 1st edition of this book, which is very commonly cited by people in the profession and community, was published in, I think, 2016, when the FAIR book came out. It's a coincidence. And this was probably in 2023, the green one. So as a B version. So I bought the Kindle version of this, so it's all available. And they're about, certainly the cybersecurity one is about 400 pages. So it's a fair reading to read, on par with the FAIR book that Jack wrote. Now, I kind of touch on the materiality assessment standard. This is what it looks like. And this was developed by Security. So today, the standard is not published yet. This is the only thing you get. The link to look at the details is there. And that's about the extent of, unlike the risk analysis taxonomy, the 40-page guide that co-written with Cody Scott, this is all that you have. There's no detail on how to go to each of the categories. But this is what the idea is. This is how, so they were doing research on a historical cyber insurance claim that came up with all this breakdown. This part is optional, so I'm going to go through this. I only got a few minutes left, so I'll send this down. So Agentic AI offer a unparalleled opportunity and challenges. An opportunity is you can enable business consume risk. There's huge potential. If you constrain the business consuming Agentic AI risk, you're going to fight an uphill battle. So And one of the key things is agents, they make autonomous decisions. And of course, we have seen Microsoft in Build 2025 in Monday, Tuesday this week at US time. This all in for Agent AI and multi-agent orchestration. So I don't have time to go through that. But one of the key things Microsoft talk about is they have embedded what you see on the screen, really important, MCP 828. So MCP is the Model Context Protocol. The link to download that is on the slide. Published in November 2024 by Anthropic. And Google published 828 in April the 9th, 2025. And the two years, and you can read the Microsoft Azure AI framework that they announced this week, and why they embedded that. Because historically, Microsoft will create a parallel protocol to what everyone do, right? So we just do things that way. In this case, it's really interesting and encouraging that Microsoft acknowledged the pioneering work Anthropic and Google has done and said this is the right way to do. We need to enable agent to talk, and MCP 828 is it. So I'll let you to digest that. And some of the resources may be useful. So I published that back in March with Jack Jones and how to model agent AI risk. In fact, I have a presentation coming in CyberCon Melbourne in October this year. I just got confirmed a couple of days ago. And looking at 3 sessions, one is on agentic AI technology on affecting bot management. The other is to continue from Gen AI risk modeling to Agent AI. So 40,001 well suited for Gen AI when everything is well understood and strong safeguards. Agent AI is wild west, right? We don't know what it looks like yet, and that's and of course a lot of action is certainly what Microsoft and Google also say the same thing. They also have the Google event this week. They both are very much focused on MCP 828, on enabling multi-agent orchestration. That's going to be key. And the key because in a multi-agent context, a lot of agents are not created by your organization nor owned by you. You had no way to influence decision, what data sets they use the backend, like LLM they use. You had no control, you have no visibility. So the only thing you go on is to discover automatically. Speed is everything. And so A2A and MCP allows you to automate the discovery process. So, and part of that is, this is a second paper published with Jack himself. So we call this is a first series, is explaining that how this actually predate the publication of 828. So I was aware MCP in November last year is where my specialization in FAIR does this conversation. Agent AI is a use case, but ultimately what FAIR enable you to do is not necessarily managing AI risk, but enabling to build a critical thinking process. And I assert that critical thinking is what going to make has been making human and make us different from AI. And Brett Smith from Microsoft and also Satya Nadella Microsoft have been saying, and this really complete change from just a couple of years ago. AI is not going to take your job, but people using AI will take your job. And that's a very big change in sentiment because we've been so worried. AI take our job. What most thought leaders are now saying, don't worry about that, but you need to learn how to take advantage of AI. To take advantage of AI, particularly Agent AI, you need critical thinking, right? Because you can never beat AI in terms of the analytical thinking on the right-hand side, this picture that I created. What we're very good at is insight and creativity, which is all critical thinking. So that's come at the end. So, well, I don't think we need to do any simulation because that's what I saw before. So, all right. So we're on time. So thank you for making time. And if you have any questions, please show out, or otherwise I'll let you to get on to the rest of your day. And I will stop the recording.
Thanks, Danny.
Thank you. Thanks, Os. See you. I will send the recording so that you guys can